birthday. And also some advanced birthday greetings for tomorrow. Going out to my brother, Mr. Calvin George. Happy birthday to you in advance. And we do hope that you're going to have a wonderful birthday. And also advanced birthday greetings going out to Miss Denise Lay. Happy birthday to you in advance. And we do hope that you're going to have a wonderful birthday celebration. Now, a bit of history for today. In fact, just earlier, I think this week, we were speaking about hanging. Well, in the year 1692, the last people hanged for witchcraft in the United States. 19, in fact, were hanged overall. And that happened during the Salem witch trials. In 1735, Robert Walpole became the first British Prime Minister to live at number 10 Downing Street. In 1792, in France, the First Republic was formed by the National Convention, stripping the king, French king, of his powers. 1862, on this day, saw United States President Abraham Lincoln issuing his preliminary Emancipation Proclamation, threatening to free all enslaved people in the rebel southern states if those states failed to rejoin the Union by January the 1st, 1863. And in 1965, India and Pakistan, a ceasefire went into effect, ending the Indo-Pakistani War. And in 1980, on this day, Iraq invaded Iran in an attempt to control the Shat al-Arab waterway. We now move on to our dish of the day. The Daily Dish is brought to you the kind compliments of our good friends at Tiles Plus.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. Need all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also glad gasway and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down, don't mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Lock Street in Castries, Bosses Jugo Zile, and Slack Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939. Tiles Plus.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome back to our program today for this Friday. And of course, happening at 760 United Nations Plaza in Manhattan, New York City is still ongoing, in fact, the 78th United Nations General Assembly. That usually marks the kickoff of a very new year within the United Nations, and the General Assembly is one of the principal organs of the United Nations, alongside the Security Council, the International Court of Justice, the Economic and Social Council, of course, the United Nations Secretariat, which is headed by Secretary General Antonio Guterres of Portugal. And, of course, the UN system includes a multiplicity of various agencies that have been operating and existing since the UN came into being back in 1945 after the end of the World War II. And, of course, many institutions do a lot of work right here in St. Lucia and across the region, including, of course, quite recently we had appreciated the work done by the World Health Organization, but some others are very important as well. UNESCO, for instance, United Nations and Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNICEF, which does lots of work with children, with the World Food Program, of course, of the UN, which is also very important in responding to a number of crises that are dealt with in terms of drought-stricken countries and other places where there are significant challenges in terms of food supply. And we quite often have been looking towards the United Nations for some leadership and effectively coordination of world efforts, of global efforts. and most recently, of course, the matter of those 17 SDGs, those Sustainable Development Goals that the world has set for itself in response to the real threat, as has now been characterized. It's no longer just a global warming, it's global boiling at this point in time, as has been pointed out by the UN Secretary General. And that, of course, has been one of the major issues as the world heads towards 2030, and the issues of how to, in fact, achieve those sustainable development goals. Of course, it is becoming a lot more apparent that these goals are not just about countries themselves, as important as they are, of course, in terms of the national action, but also the need for addressing those SDGs at the level of even the corporate world. And a number of countries have certainly taken on board the need for not just corporate social responsibility, but certainly responsibility in the matter of environment, in the matter of social engagement, as well as good governance. And so leaders from 193 countries from around the world in the United Nations, and in fact providing statements to the United Nations General Assembly. And of course, our Prime Minister, the Honorable Philip J. Pierre, is also there. And in fact, he just recently, just a few minutes ago, in fact, addressed the UN General Assembly. And I think it's very well in order that we actually share in full his address, which we will in fact be doing right now. So let's take a listen to the Prime Minister of St. Lucia.
Minister for Finance, Economic Development and Youth Economy of St. Lucia. I invite him to address the Assembly.
Mr. President, distinguished heads of state and government, other distinguished heads of delegations and delegates, let me join in the congratulations to you, Mr. President, on your election as President of this august body. This is the first time that a national of your country, Trinidad and Tobago, has assumed this office, and only the fourth occasion that a representative of a Caribbean community state has been so elected. Let me, therefore, not only wish you success as you preside over our deliberations, but also, Mr. President, let me assure you of the fullest levels of respectful cooperation from St. Lucia as you work together to advance the collective interests of our common civilization. Mr. President, there are many amongst us, the small and marginalized islands of our globe, surrounded by rising seas and scorched by rising temperatures, who are beginning to question this annual parade of flowery speeches and public pretense of brotherhood, otherwise known as the UN Annual General Assembly. What is the point, we are beginning to ask, of meeting here every year when every time the international community is called upon to take the agreed collective actions on the critical issues affecting the poor and the powerless, there is always some hesitation, some delay, once we vacate this historic building. And so, with just 7 years left to the target year of 2030, we are gathered at this 78th session of the General Assembly to discuss accelerating action towards the 2040 agenda because its Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, are in peril. We have been summoned here to rebuild trust and to reignite global solidarity for the 2023 agenda, when trust and hope are the devalued currency of global dialogue. Despite our greatest efforts to maintain faith and belief in the principles of global engagement, our entire post-independence experience has been one of dashed expectations and institutional frustration. In the 1990s, we watched helplessly as powerful countries utilized the World Trade Organization to dismantle St. Lucia's marketing arrangements for bananas in Europe, forcing hundreds of our farmers into poverty, while these already rich countries provided huge subsidies to their own farmers. When some of our Caribbean countries successfully developed our financial services industries, we were blacklisted and grey-listed like lepers and global undesirables. However, the Russia-Ukraine war has now clearly revealed to us which metropolitan capitals are the real tax havens and which are the true pipelines of illicit money. And now today, our citizenship by investment programs, which we have successfully pursued for decades, are being undermined, while the golden passport and golden visa programs of some OECD countries remain unquestioned, untouched, and unmolested. We nonetheless remain committed to keeping our programs transparent, even whilst we strengthen our due diligence regime. Mr. President, St. Lucia has come to the 70th session to say there must be justice in the relations between developed and developing countries, and that we are no longer willing to come to this annual parade merely to lend our voice to support of this or that global conflict, or to condemn whoever from year to year is the new global enemy. No powerful nation's global agenda is more important than our own, and we insist that our legitimate concerns be listened and be acted upon. Mr. President, the people of the Caribbean and St. Lucia have been designated by the African Union as part of its sixth region, which comprises people of African origin residing outside the continent. We feel ourselves obliged to seek justice for reparations for the crimes against humanity that tore our ancestors from our African homeland and enslaved them in the lands of the Western Hemisphere. It is laudable that for the last decade and a half, the United Nations has been observing the 23rd August as the International Day of Remembrance of the victims of slavery and the slave trade. The UN is also to be commended for proclaiming International Decade for Peace for People of African Descent, which ends in 2024, and we look forward to the proclamation of a second decade. However, the time has now come for the issue of reparations for the transatlantic slave trade and slavery in the Western Hemisphere to become a more central part of the global agenda and work of the United Nations, and not an issue only to be whispered about in the corridors and at the margins. It was the 400 years of the enslavement of Africans and colonialism that has led to the need today for action to achieve the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. The Secretary General of the United Nations made this unambiguously clear in his message this year to mark the International Day of Remembrance of Slavery and the Slave Trade. He said, "We can draw a straight line from the centuries of colonial exploitation to the social and economic inequalities today." Reparations for slavery, Mr. President, therefore mean that the countries which benefited and developed from 400 years of free labor from enslaved humans should now pay back for that free labor. We urge that the UN embraces this principle as a central part of its work in the coming years, with set goals, timelines, and programs of action. In the same way, Mr. President, we cannot speak of accelerated action for the Sustainable Development Goals for developing countries when developed countries do not treat the climate challenges facing developing countries with the urgency and importance they deserve. These challenges not only negatively impact our economic growth, but they threaten our very existence. Yet developed countries behave as though they are blameless and not responsible to repair and compensate for the damage they have inflicted on our planet. Have they not understood that climate change is a danger not only to the existence of small island states, but to the survival of all countries today and not tomorrow? In just about 2 months, we shall be traveling yet again to another conference on climate change. COP28 in Dubai. We'll be doing so with the current extreme and extraordinary weather events graphically demonstrating the gravity of the climate crisis. On behalf of the people and government of St. Lucia, I extend sincere sympathies to the people and governments of the Kingdom of Morocco, Libya, and the other countries that have recently suffered the obvious ravages of climate change. The new manifestations of the crisis are signaling to us that the goal of 1.5 degrees Celsius to stay alive is now very much at risk. It is said that the Roman Emperor Nero fiddled while Rome burnt. We cannot continue to be like Nero, talking away while the planet is literally burning and sometimes drowning. If COP28 is to be transformational and not another disappointing Nero-like conference, then it must deliver an ambitious global climate action plan to 2030 if it is to answer to the necessity for climate justice for developing countries like St. Lucia. Having said this, Mr. President, wish to reiterate, however, that what is critically needed is a complete reform of the global financial system to make development financing truly developmental and climate financing truly just. As has been said so many times before, and in so many different fora, and by so many small island developing states, the negotiations and the agreements for developmental assistance for these states must take into account their peculiar vulnerabilities. Consequently, one area where accelerated action is certainly necessary is that of the adaptation of Multidimensional Vulnerability Index, MVI, for small island developing states, in order to replace the gross national income per capita as a primary measure for concessionary financing. Another measure that should be considered is the Recovery Duration Adjuster, RDA, as proposed by the Caribbean Development Bank, which measures the internal resilience capacity of a country after a shock or natural disaster. It is past time for the multilateral development banks and international financial institutions to introduce these reforms. But global financial reform has to be comprehensive and radical, as put forward in two recent proposals which I commend to this august body and to international financial institutions. The first is the Bridgetown Initiative presented last year by my CARICOM colleague, Prime Minister Mia Mottley of Barbados, which argues for resilient finance mechanisms that will address both the climate and developmental crisis facing developing countries. The second is the UN Secretary General's SDG stimulus to deliver Agenda 2030 tabled in February this year. Both plans are an appeal for immediate action, and they provide a practical pathway to sustainable development and climate justice. There is therefore no deficit of ideas for reform of the international financial architecture. There is simply a dearth of goodwill. Mr. President, in the declaration issued in 2015 on the adoption of a 2030 agenda for the Sustainable Development Goals, it was said that there can be no sustainable development without peace and no peace without sustainable development. Today, 15 years later, we are in a world without peace and the Sustainable Development Goals are in jeopardy. How can trust and global solidarity for sustainable development be rebuilt when the unwarranted Russian war in Ukraine rages on, with its collateral economic damage to other countries the world over, of biting inflation, particularly on high food prices, high oil prices, and shortage of food? If trust and global solidarity for sustainable development are to be rebuilt, the unjust, unilateral, and inhumane economic embargo against the people of Cuba must be immediately withdrawn. The unmerited and cruel sanctions against the government and people of Venezuela should cease. The Palestinian people should have their own state alongside Israel, in accordance with relevant United Nations resolutions. The people of the Republic of China on Taiwan should be allowed to continue the continued enjoyment of their right to self-determination and the exercise of their democratic freedoms without threats to their autonomy and with a place in international fora. There must be an end to the conflicts in Africa and a halt to all forms, whether old or new, of neo-colonial exploitation of the continent's resources, so that the African people can fully benefit from the riches of their lands and from the greater unity among African nations. In our Caribbean region, the member states of the CARICOM community, CARICOM, remain gravely concerned over the deteriorating political, social, humanitarian, and security crisis in Haiti, the sister member states. Haiti needs the urgent and dependable support of the international community. The response to date has been underwhelming. UN efforts of a few months ago to raise $780 million for humanitarian purposes have received low pledges. The need for robust security assistance to counter the murderous armed gangs is clear. Yet the decision to enable this is meandering slowly through the Security Council. The Caribbean community hopes that the establishment of the multinational force will be given full endorsement by the United Nations Security Council as a demonstration of the commitment of the international community to support the restoration of law and order and improve the humanitarian conditions of the people of Haiti. CARICOM welcomes the government of Kenya's willingness to lead such a multinational force. Member states of the Caribbean community will contribute personnel as well. The community will also continue its good efforts through its eminent persons group to assist the Haitian stakeholders find a solution to the political crisis, a critical necessity to pave the way towards an improved future for the people of Haiti. I urge the various Haitian stakeholders to cooperate with CARICOM to find a political compromise for the sake of the Haitian people and in honor of the heroic and fabled ancestors whom they revere so much for daring to break the chains of slavery 200 years ago and bring freedom to the black people of the Caribbean. Mr. President, the immorality of the suffering, the destruction and death that these conflicts are bringing to the world are not the only reasons for our appeals to end them. The immorality is only matched by the absurdity of the expenditure on arms that sustain these wars and inhibit peace. This should be of grave concern to all of us. What is of equal concern to states like St. Lucia is the illicit trade in small arms and light weapons, which ran into billions of dollars in 2022. Not only do these arms and light weapons fuel lesser conflicts all over the world, but illegal arms facilitate criminal activities in St. Lucia and other CARICOM member states. Illegal firearms were responsible for 70% of the homicides in the Caribbean community in 2022. And in St. Lucia, the majority of homicides are firearms related and involve young people both as victims and yet, Mr. President, neither St. Lucia nor its fellow CARICOM member states manufacture small arms, light weapons and ammunition. Their sources are our continental neighbors to the north and south of the Caribbean. St. Lucia therefore continues to strongly support the international instruments aimed at preventing and curbing the illicit trafficking in small arms and light weapons. Mr. President, I welcome the announcement by the United States administration earlier this year to provide technical assistance to support and to combat illegal weapons smuggling into the Caribbean and in solving gun-related cases. Let us be reminded that SDG 16.4 aims at significantly reducing illicit arms flows. There is, however, hope for global solidarity. In June this year, the Intergovernmental Conference on Marine Biodiversity of Areas Beyond National Jurisdiction adopted the historic Marine Diversity Treaty. For St. Lucia, a small island development state, The protection of the oceans is an imperative, since the oceans and their resources do not belong to one country but are the heritage of all mankind. St. Lucia signed the treaty this week and will move towards its ratification in the shortest possible time. Mr. President, I offer my congratulations on the opening of the UN Youth Office. As I said in my address last year, the importance accorded to the youth by the UN is in harmony with my government's policy of giving priority to youth affairs for the creation of a youth economy, in which young people with state assistance can turn their talents, skills, and hobbies into businesses that will provide sustainable self-employment. I am therefore pleased to report that our youth economy was formally launched in March this year and has been met with enthusiasm and success. To date, about 300 young people in St. Lucia have benefited from funding and training from the government to assist them with starting or supporting their businesses, and the numbers continue to grow. Once again, I invite the international community to engage with us on mutually beneficial relationships and projects to promote the youth economy. Through the youth economy, we are responding to the SDGs, and with my government's policy of putting people first, we are addressing the other SDGs. Mr. President, after the destruction and ruin of the 20th century world wars and the Cold War, one would have thought that the start of the 21st century would have ushered in a new era of global solidarity. It has not. In conclusion, I ask these questions, for which we must all provide urgent responses, as the fate of Agenda 2040 depends on our answers. Is there the political will and commitment to divert financial resources away from destructive activities like wars and other conflicts? Is there the political will to place these financial resources instead into the productive action of responding to the climate crisis? Is there the political will to use these trillions of dollars to end starvation and underdevelopment in the world and provide justice for reparations? Is there the political will to put people first and not weapons first? Is there the political will to develop trust and build a lasting peace that will rekindle our sustainable development goals and lead towards prosperity, progress, and sustainability for all? For the sake of us all and for future generations, we must find it. Mr. President, to quote St. Lucian-born Nobel laureate Honorable Derek Walcott, hope is not a thing to be deferred, but a thing to be pursued with all hungry passion of our existence. I thank you.
This has been The Daily Dish.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. With all kind of tiles, come down to Tiles Plus. We also glad gas and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses, Jugos, Delays, and Slack Street in Viewfort. Telephone number 453-7939. Tiles Plus.
And welcome back to the lunchroom. And of course, you were just listening to the statement made by Prime Minister Honorable Philip J. Pierre, Prime Minister of St. Lucia, to the 78th United Nations General Assembly, which is ongoing in New York right now. And of course, he touched on quite a number of matters, of course, calling out the West and Western countries on the duplicity of major issues, pointing out, of course, going way back to the matter of bananas and the trade issues and impositions through the World Trade Organization, which were effectively condemned the the small banana industry in the Windward Islands and other ACP countries, and of course, calling out the fact that those very same countries that were in fact doing just that invested tremendously in agricultural subsidies in their very own countries to give their producers advantage in terms of agricultural export. He also, of course, raised the issue of duplicity on the issues of climate change and the fact that, for instance, we are finding significant funds right now to invest in wars in Ukraine, but it's for some reason there's always delay, there's always an issue when it comes to finding resources to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, and in particular to achieve the targets set by the Congress of Parties on climate change, that target of containing the increase in temperature to 1.5 degrees across the world. That is becoming certainly even more difficult to achieve as we continue to see pledges not being in fact brought forward. Of course, he said that quite often developed countries behave as if they are blameless and that they've got no part in the entire matter, and effectively called on those countries to put their money where their mouths are regarding climate change. Of course, he likened this situation to that of Rome burning while Nero fiddled, and called on events like the upcoming COP very soon in a couple of months not to be Nero-like conferences. And he pointed out that there are lots of plans and lots of ideas as to how to move forward, whether they're being put forward by the UN Secretary General or by Mia Mottley of Barbados. But the issue is a dearth of goodwill to, in fact, make it happen. Of course, he also pointed out that there will be no peace, as well, really a quote, that there will be no peace without sustainable development. But he also questioned how the developing world can actually trust in this idea of global solidarity when there are so many issues of war, when there are issues of rising inflation and food shortages as well. He made some special plugs for countries that are, of course, suffering right now from various natural disasters, including the Kingdom of Morocco and the state of Libya, and the challenges that they are going through there as a result of what is believed to be climate-induced flooding, very, very heavy rainfall there in that country, leading to the destruction of dams and significant flooding there. He also raised the outstanding matters of injustice, in particular that of Cuba, still under embargo since the 1960s. He also raised the matter of Venezuela and their current embargoes and the issues that they are facing with the United States as well. He raised the matter of Palestine and, of course, the situation of Israel-Palestine, where there was, in fact, a Jewish homeland created for Jewish people, Israel itself going through its own issues right about now in terms of protests over changes with the judiciary over there, but pointing out that Palestine and the Palestinian people still deserve their own homeland as well, their own state. Of course, also calls for better treatment and justice for Taiwan. He raised the issue of conflict in Africa. Of course, as we know, there's a significant number of issues with Africa, and in particular leading to coups and the issues of neocolonial exploitation, as he termed it. And pointing out as well, of course, the situation with Haiti and that there is grave concern regarding Haiti. But despite the fact that lots of people are talking about Haiti, there is underwhelming support in terms of the actual dollar value, the support being provided to deal with issues of food shortages in Haiti, and the pledges have been low. Of course, he also dealt with a matter very critical right here to our own society, and that of illegal firearms, and pointing out that the data is suggesting that nearly 70% of all homicides in the Caribbean are as a result of firearms, and largely illegal firearms that are coming out of the United States. And of course also called on the need for political will, and asking the question whether in fact there is political will at the global level, at the level of developed countries, to address the matter of reparatory justice, to address the matter of putting an end to weapons and the sale of weapons and all those bellicose stances which so many countries have been taking lately, as well as whether there would in fact be that ability to achieve trust on the matter of achieving achieving the climate change goals, as well as the 2030 SDGs. So that's just a quick synopsis of that address by the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, of about nearly over 20 minutes, 21 minutes or so, which was just delivered this afternoon, at the United Nations. Now, I believe we're going to try to, we've got to take a break at least for the weather. I think we're not too sure as yet. We're still having some problems getting the weather report. We're trying to sort that out for you, but we certainly do still have to take in those ads at this time. So we're going to head across to Keisha for that.
Thank you, Calixte. And the latest weather report is brought to you by Island Style Tile and Bath and Flow.
Hurricane season can be unpredictable, but your business doesn't have to be. In the face of adversity, you need a partner that goes above and beyond. Choose the path of resilience and certainty with C&W Business. Through disaster recovery as a strategy solution, C&W Business will safeguard your critical data, maintain seamless communication channels, and help you bounce back faster than ever before. Visit our website, cwcbusiness.com/myopenbusiness to learn more. Remember, a safe business is an open business.
Girl, I've been so stressed searching for the perfect tiles to complete my home. Really? Yeah, it's always the same white, beige, and gray tiles with the tile stores. Like they're all buying from the same place. You're the design expert. Help me, please. I'm fed up.
What are you looking for?
Something different. Something that says Caribbean beauty and suits my personality. Something vibrant and classy with a little razzle dazzle.
Okay, Ms. Razzle Dazzle, I know just the place. Island Style Tile and Bath, they're my #1 store for everything tile. And with their new In Living Color collection, you'll find the most gorgeous styles to give you that splash of Caribbean flair you're looking for.
That sounds perfect.
I'll even take you myself and throw in a free design consultation.
I'll never say no to that, sis. I can't afford you anyway.
Visit our Island Style showrooms in Castries, Rodney Bay, and View Fort, or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. We'll help bring your vision to life in living color.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
The latest weather report is as of noon today, 22nd September 2023, and the forecaster is Virgil Saltibus. Present weather at Urinora Airport is fair. Present weather at GFL Charles Airport is partly cloudy. Present temperature at Urinora Airport is 32 degrees Celsius or 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Last night's minimum temperature at Urinora Airport was 27 degrees Celsius or 81 degrees Fahrenheit. Relative humidity at Urinora Airport is 65%. Wind at Urinora Airport is blowing from the east to southeast at 12 miles per hour or 24 kilometers per hour. Rainfall in the 24-hour period that ended at 8 a.m. today at Urinora Airport, 4.2 millimeters, and GFL Charles Airport, 4.2 millimeters. Total rainfall for the month of September so far at Urinora Airport, 43.9 millimeters, at GFL Charles Airport, 49.1 millimeters. Sunset today, 6 p.m., sunrise tomorrow, 5:53 a.m. Forecast for St. Lucia valid for the next 24 hours. Winds will be blowing from the east, from between the east and east-southeast near 14 miles per hour or 22 kilometers per hour. Weather, fair skies becoming occasionally cloudy with a few brief showers today. Some scattered light to moderate showers can be expected tomorrow with a chance of isolated thunderstorms. Marine forecast for seas in a 25-mile or 40-kilometer radius from St. Lucia. Tides for Castries Harbor low at 1:13 p.m., high at 8:21 p.m. Tides for Viewfort Bay low at 2:40 p.m., high at 9:28 p.m. Seas are slight to moderate with waves 3 to 5 feet or 0.9 to 1.9 meters. Forecast for the Les Antilles, fair skies becoming occasionally cloudy with a few brief showers and a chance of isolated thunderstorms over the southern portion of the region. Total weather outlook. A weak tropical wave expected to produce an increase in cloudiness and some scattered showers with a chance of isolated thunderstorms across the central and southern portions of the Eastern Caribbean region tomorrow, Saturday. Another tropical wave located over the far eastern tropical Atlantic is moving westward near 15 miles per hour or 24 kilometers per hour. This wave has a high chance of tropical cyclone formation during the next 7 days. And that's the latest weather report for today, 22nd September 2023. We say thank you to our forecaster, Vigil Saltibus. The latest weather report is brought to you by Island Style, Tile and Bath, and Flow.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Hurricane season can be unpredictable, but your business doesn't have to be. In the face of adversity, you need a partner that goes above and beyond. Choose the path of resilience and certainty with C&W Business. Through disaster recovery as a strategy solution, C&W Business will safeguard your critical data, maintain seamless communication channels, and help you bounce back faster than ever before. Visit our website, cwcbusiness.com/myopenbusiness to learn more. Remember, a safe business is an open business.
Girl, I've been so stressed searching for the perfect tiles to complete my home. Really? Yeah, it's always the same white, beige, and gray tiles with the style stores. Like they're all buying from the same place. You're the design expert. Help me, please. I'm fed up. What are you looking for? Something different. Something that says Caribbean beauty and suits my personality. Something vibrant and classy with a little razzle dazzle. Okay, Ms. Razzle Dazzle, I know just the place. Island Style Tile and Bath, they're my number one store for everything tile. And with their new In Living Color collection, you'll find the most gorgeous styles to give you that splash of Caribbean flair you're looking for. That sounds perfect. I'll even take you myself and throw in a free design consultation. I'll never say no to that, sis. I can't afford you anyway.
Visit our Island Style showrooms in Castries, Rodney Bay, and Viewfort, or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. We'll help bring your vision to life in living color.
And welcome back to the lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International for this Friday. And of course, the number to call in if you want to add your voice to the mix and tell us what's on your plate today, it is 452-3046, as well as our WhatsApp number, that is 724-0008. And let's go to the phone lines at this time to take in our first call for the day. Good afternoon and welcome to the lunchroom.
Good afternoon, Brother Calixte.
Good afternoon, caller. How are you doing?
I'm fine. I can't complain. Also, good afternoon to your listeners. I I suppose that that you have linked the Prime Minister's address to the point that you were making yesterday. Am I correct or am I wrong, Brother Khaled?
Which point are you referring to? We made lots of
Oh, yesterday, no, yesterday, because yesterday you intended to end with a piece that was addressing,
cooling, the issue of cooling.
yes, the matters concerning global warming,
Right. Yes.
and I didn't catch all of your program, but I thought you would continue with that, and for a moment there, I thought probably you have made a synthesis between that of the Prime Minister and that which you have addressed yesterday.
Well, it is certainly the issue right now, and I think it's an issue that we can all feel. I think it's becoming a lot more real for more people around the world, that issue of global warming. There's been a lot of discussion, and right here in the Caribbean, we've been saying that, look, we've been seeing the issue of extreme weather events. We've been complaining about the issue of coastal erosion, but it's now becoming this global issue that people are now definitely, hey, okay, there's no getting away from this right now. All the climate deniers and the climate change, well, it's okay, it won't be so bad. It's clearly becoming very clear and apparent for the entire world. And so yes, it is certainly an issue that we were trying to give some focus on for the week.
Okay, I've listened to your program yesterday, and we're speaking about global warming, and I'm a reader. I read, and not too long ago, in some of my reading concerning globalization and internationalization, I had to look at certain perspectives, and also the whole perspective of globalization and its impact on global warming. And what I have found in my reading and in my research is that we are looking at global warming from a global perspective, but some authors have delved even further at not just looking at globalization as a issue, a present day issue, but more as an issue that is a capitalist issue. One of these authors, Rosalia Luxemburg, Polish revolutionary socialist, born at the end of the 19th century and died, I think, somewhere short after the First World War, stated that capitalism is a destructive force that will actually devour and destroy everything in its path.
Well, there's on a side to that, and coming to that exactly the same idea, the idea of just continuous growth, because that's what capitalism tends to be about. How do we continue to grow and grow and grow and grow? And the point has been made. In fact, I remember Dr. Jimmy Fletcher making that point as well in trying to characterize this whole concept. The only cell in the body that just grows uncontrollably is a cancer cell.
Exactly.
Right? And it ends up killing you. It kills the host. And so that is a very poignant point that you are also making about capitalism. Yes. Unchecked capitalism.
Unchecked. You are a member of the St. Lucian Chess Club, and you are part of that WhatsApp group, which I am part of.
You're telling people about business, caller, but okay, go ahead.
But that's okay. Chess is popular. Chess is good. Chess is for thinkers. I mean, we have to. If we have a chance to mention chess in this conversation, that is good for chess.
Yes, indeed.
So hooray for chess. Now, listen to that. This and this is the example that Rosalia Luxemburg brought forth. You know, with her Marxist theory of capitalism, where she's stating what was sent in the group, and this is what has happened to us through colonialism, which is we steal 100% of their resources, give them 1% of the benefit, and call it foreign aid. And that is what the capitalist system has been about. So the shenanigans that are going on in those meetings, I know that, you know, the Prime Minister of Barbados, you know, she made headways speaking up, you know, on 2 occasions at those meetings. You know, the nature of the beast and the nature of capitalism. You know, don't expect the Chinese, the Americans, to add water to their wine when it relates to profit and profit margin, because that is what capitalism is about. So I think that all those nice conversations, looking back in hindsight, and again through reading and studying, you know, I think that the approach has to be totally different. I don't think that these monsters are going to change their mindset, because at the end of the day, it's all about profit. The war that is being waged in Ukraine, it's a significant loss for many millions, but it is definitely a profit. So, thank you, Brother Calixte.
All right, thanks very much for sharing that very interesting perspective on the entire matter, and I think you're very correct on that. And of course, the number to call in is 452-3046. We'll take another call at this time. Good afternoon and welcome to the lunchroom. What's on your plate today?
Good afternoon, Mr. George.
How are you doing, caller?
Not too bad. And I say bravo to my Prime Minister. I feel so proud for Philip J. Pierre. Well, just the same way I feel for Ian Mockley last year, but I feel just the same thing, same vibe go in me when my Prime Minister, Philip J. Pierre, stand up and make that speech.
It was an excellent address, and I think it captured so many of the very critical issues that are facing the world, and as well, of course, right here in St. Lucia.
All over the world. He didn't only talk for the Caribbean, but he go all over the world, and he make them know what's going on. You see, when Dr. Fletcher didn't make a good speech, no, that was the COP.
Yes.
Yeah, COP. But he was good as well. But I said, bravo, my Prime Minister. And would I just near-colonial exploitation taking place right now in Africa? Yeah, because during exploitation in Africa, in slavery, the Russians didn't go there. The Chinese.
Well, it's interesting that you're saying that, caller, because when you look at what is going on right now in West Africa and the Sahel region, where you're finding so many of these countries, from Chad to Mali to Niger, behind the scenes, there are Western European interests, in France in particular. There are Eastern European interests with Russia, right? And the involvement and the use of these effectively mercenary forces, right? The very same ones that the Russians were using in Ukraine, right, with the Wagner Group.
Wagner,
They very much. All these players are still very much active in Africa and making money by selling war.
Yes,
so
but Russia is one of the biggest diamond country in the world.
Well, from what they're saying, a lot of times these mercenary groups are being paid from minerals. Basically, they're being paid out of whatever is being coming out of these various mines.
They're mining the gold in one of the, I don't know if it's Guinea-Bissau or in Russia. They're mining the gold and they're making the medal in Africa itself to give the soldiers that are fighting on the front line. Yeah. And so that's what's going on there right now.
But it's interesting though, because Russia is portraying itself as being for Africa, and it's portraying itself as, hey, you've been exploited by these Western European countries for hundreds of years, right? By the British and the French and others. We are coming with a different agenda.
That is what the African is saying right now.
So
as we speak there, that's what the African is saying. You see, there is one country there where the Wagner Group is. They have their shop. They sell all sorts of things, even wood, hardwood. They sell in that place there. They exploit in Africa now. I that come to a shock to me in this day and age that the Africans could accept those people to come in their country to exploit them. I thought they was better than that.
Well, caller, one can say that it's maybe just a new form of what we've seen in the past. Remember, we've gone through this whole period where you had capitalism versus communism, and Russia's been there for a long time. When I say Russia, the USSR was very active in Africa, in many countries for a long time, and so there's a continuation of this sort of.
That's when they were spreading the communists, but now I don't know what they're spreading.
Well, different names, basically.
Yeah,
but
the
principle is still about using these as battlegrounds, using these areas as opportunities for where you can just get resources, and for a lot of countries. It is that resource grab. It's like, hey, Europe doesn't have those kind of mineral resources. We've got to get it from somewhere else. The Chinese are doing it, right, of course.
You want money, you want a road, we'll build you a road. You want this, we'll build you that. And when they finish, when you cannot pay back, all the money goes in robbery and things like that. Then they want to seize whatever they build there.
Well, that road can then become very important, or that railway becomes very important to get minerals out, or to get to extract things. So yeah, it is a real challenge that you find that in the midst of it all. I suppose a lot of people tell you, well, there's never a free meal, and I think a lot of countries in Africa have become very jaded about what they get and what's behind what they're getting. And so quite often, you're right, there is that reality that, hey, it's sometimes these individuals who are coming and they're offering you lots of development,
goodies.
Lots of goodies. They don't necessarily have the best of intentions. So it's a difficult period to be in right now, certainly.
Yeah, but I have to say it again. Bravo to my Prime Minister. He touched all around the world. He never even, he did not stay in the Caribbean. He go all over, the Arabs, all of them. He touched them. And all the promise, they promising this and that, and is false. They are pollute. Look, England, you'll never expect they're going back to the North Sea to exploit for oil. They're going back and in mining to bring coal back.
Yeah, I think Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is now talking about a pragmatic climate change, or pragmatic responses to climate change, and effectively trying to almost roll back a lot of the things and the promises that have been made.
Well,
and
he wouldn't be there for long.
well,
sorry to say, he wouldn't be there for long.
let's see what happens, caller, in that regard. Thanks very much for that contribution, and have a good one. And of course, lots to take in, certainly. And of course, the addresses at the United Nations General Assembly will be continuing. And of course, they're all available online if you are so interested to hear what the other pledges are about. And we should also mention that Trinidad, of course, is also serving the president of the United Nations General Assembly this year is in fact from Trinidad and Tobago. So bravo to them on that achievement. We'll try to squeeze in just one more call before we end the program, just very quickly. Good afternoon and welcome to the lunchroom. What's on your plate today? Hello, good afternoon. Hi, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, sorry about that caller. It looks like we had some issues with getting you. Go right ahead.
Yeah, hello?
Yes, we have you now, caller. Go right ahead.
Yeah. Well, I just tuned in. I heard the few last words of not the last caller, but the one before him, the previous one. And so I'm not too au exactly what they were talking about.
Oh, well, we played the address by the Prime Minister at the United Nations General Assembly, which just occurred not too long ago. And so they were giving comment to some of the issues that were being raised in that address, sorry.
Yeah, I heard one part of an address from the Pakistani rep. I heard the Prime Minister or the President of the Prime Minister of the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these guys were the Prime Minister of Netherlands. Well, when Pakistan talking, I'm not really listening to Pakistan that much because Pakistan have had a life of its own. In terms of Pakistan does not seem. Pakistan always have to be in the opposite because they believe that India, as far as they're concerned, India is much bigger than them. And although they were the ones, the Muslims were the ones who decided that they wanted their own country. Their own country,
mm-hmm.
right? They gave them two enclaves, one on the right, one on the left.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't even keep they couldn't keep themselves together. So
Bangladesh had to get independence. Yeah,
a third country was created to make it Bangladesh. So they have not even been able to keep their house in order, but they still have some form of jealousy, and that jealousy is not really real jealousy. You know, that the thing that is there. They are willing to collect money on behalf of to oppose India because the European countries are using them, especially not Europe. The West is using them, especially the United States, because the United States is the one that armed them with nuclear weapons. Right?
You're speaking about Pakistan, or
yes, Pakistan. Yes. I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
They armed them with nuclear weapons. The Russians say, no, you cannot. India cannot be the biggest, much bigger than you. And because you find yourself in conflict with India because you want to be the one in control. Although you force the British to give you your share. You take your share now. You're not satisfied with what you get, so you want more. Now that is madness. That is madness. And Pakistan have been playing that role from the inception. So when the Prime Minister of Pakistan come and talk, you just listen to them, fellas. You're not taking it on. The other one, the one from the Netherlands, when he spoke, well, I didn't have all of it. But you see, these guys continue to push this Europe thing, and like, if they at the top, you're not at the top. You are depending on everybody else's resources. It's the same thing. You want all of those Europeans, they have no resources, or they have limited resources, or very limited resources, but they're depending on everybody's resources, and they're calling you They say you're a garden. And we are the civilized people in here. So when we talk, you have to listen. How you want to create rules for people when you don't have anything? That is what's going on, you know. That is what's going on. These guys want to create rules and we are civilized. First of all, you knew nothing about the early civilization of the world. So who were you civilizing? Who civilized you? The Moors was the last set to civilize you all in Europe. So have some respect for black people. But they hate black people to the teeth. But they want the soil that the black people walking on. We cannot. So this thing that's going on there, I don't know how it's going to end. But all I could say.
Well, I'm not sure that any of us will be around when it ends, Scott. So
I don't know how it's going to end. But my great grandfather said, there will be a time. He said so in the 1920s before he died. There will be a time coming, not too far away, but maybe 100 years past already. He said, you will have money in your hands and you will not be able to buy the food because the food will be much more expensive than the money you claim you have. So he was referring to the value of the money you claim you have. And that was 100 years ago you were saying that. And we are seeing it coming to light now.
Well, that's a reality for people in many countries like Argentina and Zimbabwe.
Right?
Yeah, it's a major issue. Mm-hmm.
Right? So this thing is alive and well. And if the BRICS currency, I don't know how soon it will be in place. Although it has already been valued. I think I saw a number of YouTube videos where it is valued at 50 bricks, now $50 to one brick. So we don't know what's going on.
Well, caller, we're going to have to continue that conversation next week because we're already 10 minutes over the time. So our apologies for that, but thanks very much for your contribution. Right. And of course, thanks to all those who, in fact, called in. Very interesting contributions. We do hope we can continue to have them next week, God willing, for another week of the Lunchroom at Radio Caribbean International. Do have yourself a very safe and enjoyable weekend. I'm your host, Calixte George Jr., saying goodbye.